Welcome back to Upfront, everyone. Adrian Pedersen is off this week, and I'm Matt Smith. 3 lawmakers want to remove the statute of limitations on lawsuits over child sexual assaults. Currently, Wisconsinites have until they're 35 to file a civil lawsuit against people who sexually abused them as children. The 3 Democrats also want to force clergy members to report allegations of child sexual abuse that they learn about in confidential conversations. Representatives Chris Taylor and Melissa Sargent of Madison and Senator Lena Taylor of Milwaukee introduced the bills last week. Taylor told a powerful story herself of survival. She joins us now on Upfront. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is not the first attempt at this legislation when you look at the statute of limitations. What's your motivation to keep this conversation going?
I think survivors deserve an opportunity to have justice. I think survivors deserve an opportunity to be able to work through that trauma themselves and to then get to a place where they can pursue justice. I think more than anything, survivors deserve an opportunity for us to say, do we stand with them with children, or do we stand with the perpetrators? And I want to be found standing with the children.
Alongside other survivors at a news conference last week, you shared a story yourself and talked about the time it takes to come to the realization sometimes about what happened.
Yes, and I mean, literally, I was in law school. I was 27 when I even was able to bring the memory back up, and that was trauma within itself. And I can't tell you how long it then took for me to work through knowing that and working through even communicating that, right, to family members. And then the first time I ever even spoke it out loud, I was on the Senate floor. So that was a long time. That's a process. That trauma, those, even when I'm standing at the press conference, it's still, you know, it's still a little something that you experience. And I know many of the other survivors that were in the room, you know, were still traumatized. One woman was shaking as she spoke, you know.
Do you think a lot of survivors want to then take it to the next step if they are past 35?
You know, some of them may, but more than anything, they should have that option. And we all should want to stop trauma for our children.
I was watching some testimony from when this bill was brought up previously. I think it was 2010, almost a decade ago.
Actually, 2002 before that, but yeah, 2010 with 2010, me,
yes. You were on that committee.
Yes.
And there was some strong opposition, including from the Archdiocese. I'm curious if anything in your mind has changed to move this forward, and have Republicans signed on to this yet?
No Republicans have signed on yet, but I will tell you that we've had some conversations with Republicans and people who are interested. And so just because people haven't signed on doesn't mean that the bill would not get a hearing, would not get support. And I do believe that mindsets have changed. I mean, I want to tell you, I was shocked in 2010 to have the Archdiocese come and testify against such a bill. But since then, the Catholic Church itself has really taken a different stance. The Pope has taken a different stance. And the movement, I think, around sexual assault and survivors being able to have a voice with the Me Too movement and so many other things. So I actually believe that this bill will be successful. I believe that no one wants to stand with perpetrators, with rapists.
You talk about moving this forward, and are you willing to compromise on anything as the legislation is currently written to move this forward?
Actually, yes. I mean, in whatever way that we can compromise to move us from the fact that there's a time limit that you have to know and make a decision and work through your trauma by the time you're 35 or that's it, I think that that's unfair. If we had to put a time limit on it that's, you know, different than 35, I would hope not to go that route, but I'm open to that. As well as in the other bill, I think that we're open to amendments.
Let's talk about that other bill, the mandatory reporting of clergy. This is the first time this is being introduced in the state. What about this argument that I'm sure you've heard already about the sanctity of the confessional and the time with the priest in confession, and that should remain private?
It is private. However, I believe that there has to be a line when it comes to our children, that we have to be willing to protect our children. And so presently, clergy have a mandatory reporting, except if it is in secret. Well, the silence is the sickness. The silence is the sickness if we are allowing and knowing that individuals are harming our children, and we turn the other cheek on that. That's not something we should turn the other cheek. We do a lot of work in the state to try to address trauma. We're trying to implement it in everything, in our schools, in our departments, in so many different ways. Well, let's implement preventing trauma. So when we know something happens, just imagine being a child and going to your priest or going to your pastor, and that individual knows that you're being harmed and they do nothing. Individuals who were in a room with a priest and a person who was in a law enforcement uniform, and people are thinking they're reporting it and it's not getting reported. What does that do to your faith? What does that do to believing that those people that will protect you will? I mean, that I think is more traumatizing than anything. And I don't believe that children should be stripped of their belief in a higher being.
I want to quickly shift gears and talk about 2020 and the Democratic National Convention. I've seen you at a number of events when hopefuls have been here. Cory Booker will be here again Sunday afternoon. Saw you at one of his events.
Yes, we'll be together, actually.
He's
going to go to Greater New Birth Church with me on Sunday.
Fantastic. Amy Klobuchar, I saw you at her town hall. Are you going to endorse in the primary, and have you made up your mind yet on a candidate?
I've not made up my mind. I believe that it's important to make sure that people are exposed to all of the candidates. And I may endorse, but who knows? I may be in my own race.
I was going to say there's some speculation, and you've talked about it yourself. Are you considering a run for Milwaukee mayor?
I've got on my Converse. Normally you wear tennis shoes when you're ready to run. So, we'll see.
When will you make that decision?
There's no need to make a decision at this point, but I will tell you I'm very excited about 2020. I'm excited about the DNC coming. I think it's really important to shine a light on Milwaukee. And we are really the cesspool of like those horrible statistics that exist, right? 53206. Worst in the nation. We've lost all of our black banks, in Milwaukee. Home ownership. Middle class, black middle class. These are all issues for black and brown communities that are very challenged. So I'd love having the hopefuls come here and talk about, what's their vision, what's their plan to be able to move all communities
What's the
forward.
tipping point that would make you jump into the race for mayor?
At this point, it's the people and what the people have wanted and what they want. And it really seems really clear that the people want change.
All right, we'll be talking politics a lot over the next couple months.
I think so.
State Senator Lena Taylor, we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Later on Up Front.
I just hope that enough people talk to him that care about this issue that will convince him to do the right thing.
A disabled lawmaker's final demand of the Speaker. But first, lots of jobs, not enough workers. How to fill the need next on Up Front.